It was a busy Monday morning at Atlanta's most popular coffee shop, Morning Brew, when Tasha Williams rushed in to grab her usual vanilla latte before heading to her nursing shift. Her dark curly hair was neatly tied back, and her blue scrubs already showed signs of a hectic morning at Atlanta General Hospital. The line was longer than usual, making Tasha check her watch repeatedly. As she stood there, tapping her foot impatiently, the door chimed again. A handsome man in a wheelchair rolled in, skillfully maneuvering through the tight spaces between tables. His presence immediately caught Tasha's attention, not because of his wheelchair, but because of his confident smile and the way he greeted everyone around him with genuine warmth. The man positioned himself in line behind Tasha, and when she accidentally stepped back, bumping into his wheelchair, she turned around, mortified. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. The man looked up at her with the most striking brown eyes she had ever seen and laughed. "No worries, I'm Marcus Bennett, and my wheelchair and I are pretty used to being bumped into." His easygoing nature immediately put Tasha at ease. "I'm Tasha," she replied, smiling despite her embarrassment. "I promise I'm usually more careful, especially since I'm a nurse." Marcus's eyes lit up. "A nurse? That's impressive. I'm just a boring web developer who spends too much time staring at computer screens." The line moved slowly, giving them time to chat. Marcus told her about his job at a local tech company and how he had been paralyzed from the waist down after a car accident when he was 12. He spoke about it matter-of-factly, without any trace of self-pity. Tasha found herself drawn to his positive attitude and the way he made her laugh with his clever jokes. When she mentioned her struggle with a patient's complicated medical chart that morning, Marcus shared a funny story about a website coding disaster that had his whole office in chaos for days. As they reached the counter, Marcus surprised her by ordering the same drink she always got, a vanilla latte. "Great minds think alike," he said with a wink. Before Tasha could reach for her wallet, Marcus had already paid for both their drinks. "You didn't have to do that," Tasha protested, but Marcus just smiled. "Consider it an apology for making you late to work," he said, glancing at the clock on the wall. Tasha's eyes widened as she realized she was indeed running behind schedule. As she turned to leave, Marcus called out, "Hey Tasha, would you like to have coffee again sometime? Maybe when you're not rushing to work?" Tasha hesitated for a moment. Some of her friends had complicated relationships, but dating someone with a disability, she had never considered it before. Looking at Marcus's genuine smile and remembering their easy conversation, she realized his wheelchair didn't matter nearly as much as the connection she felt with him. "I'd like that," she replied, surprising herself with how much she meant it. They exchanged phone numbers, and Tasha hurried off to work, her heart feeling lighter than it had in months. Throughout her shift that day, Tasha kept thinking about Marcus. She remembered how his eyes crinkled when he laughed, how he told stories with his whole face lighting up, and how he seemed so comfortable in his own skin. Her coworker, Jenny, noticed her distraction during lunch break. "Okay, spill it," Jenny said. "Who's got you smiling at your phone like that?" Tasha told her about meeting Marcus, carefully watching her friend's reaction when she mentioned the wheelchair. Jenny's expression changed slightly, but she tried to hide it. "Just be careful, Tasha," Jenny warned. "Dating someone with a disability, it's a lot of responsibility." But Tasha wasn't really listening. She was too busy reading Marcus's text. "Hope your day is going well. Same time tomorrow for coffee?" Looking at his message, Tasha realized that sometimes the best things in life come in unexpected packages. She didn't see a man in a wheelchair anymore. She saw Marcus, the funny, charming web developer who bought her coffee and made her morning better. Without hesitation, she typed back, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Little did Tasha know, this ordinary Monday morning at a coffee shop was the beginning of an extraordinary love story that would change her life forever. 3 months after their coffee shop meeting, Tasha and Marcus's relationship was growing stronger each day. However, not everyone was as supportive of their connection as they hoped. One Sunday afternoon at Tasha's family dinner, the tension became impossible to ignore. "I just don't understand," Tasha's mother, Gloria, said while stirring her sweet tea. "You're such a beautiful, successful woman. Don't you want a normal relationship?" Her words hung heavy in the air of their family dining room. Tasha put down her fork, trying to keep her voice steady. "Mom, Marcus is normal. He just uses a wheelchair. He's smart, funny, and treats me better than any man I've ever dated. Her younger sister, Keisha, jumped in to support her. Mom, you should see them together. Marcus makes Tasha happier than I've ever seen her. But their mother wasn't convinced. She kept bringing up all the things Marcus wouldn't be able to do: dance at their wedding, play with future children, or even help with household chores. Each word felt like a knife to Tasha's heart. Meanwhile, Marcus was facing his own struggles. At his apartment that evening, he confided in his best friend, David, while they watched a basketball game. Sometimes I wonder if Tasha's mom is right, Marcus said, running his hands over his wheelchair's wheels. Maybe I am asking too much of her. Yesterday, we tried to go to that new restaurant she wanted to try, but they didn't have wheelchair access. I could see how disappointed she was, even though she tried to hide it. David turned off the TV and faced his friend. Man, stop that. I've known you since college, and I've never seen you doubt yourself like this. That woman looks at you like you hung the moon. Just then, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from Tasha. Just survived another family dinner. Can I come over? I need to see your smile. 20 minutes later, Tasha arrived at Marcus's accessible apartment. As soon as she saw him, her family's disapproval seemed to fade away. Marcus had prepared hot chocolate, their favorite comfort drink, and had already queued up their favorite movie. Bad day? He asked, pulling her onto his lap in the wheelchair, something that had become their favorite way to watch movies together. My mom still doesn't get it. Tasha sighed, leaning her head against his shoulder. But I don't care. I wish they could see what I see. Marcus was quiet for a moment. And what exactly do you see? He asked, his voice carrying a hint of his own insecurities. Tasha turned to face him. I see a man who remembers my coffee order, laughs at my terrible jokes, and sends me funny memes during my night shifts to keep me awake. I see someone who's never let anything stop him from living life to the fullest. The wheelchair? It's just how you get around, like my car is how I get around. Her words touched something deep in Marcus's heart. That night, they talked for hours about their fears and hopes. Marcus shared stories about growing up after his accident, about the people who doubted him, and how he proved them wrong by becoming a successful web developer. The next day at the hospital, Tasha's coworker Jenny noticed a change in her. You're really serious about him, aren't you? She asked during their lunch break. I am, Tasha replied confidently. And I wish people would stop acting like I'm making some huge sacrifice. I'm dating an amazing man who happens to use a wheelchair. The only real challenge is dealing with everyone else's opinions about it. As weeks passed, Tasha and Marcus grew even closer. They developed their own routine, movie nights at his accessible apartment, coffee dates at their special spot, and video game competitions where Tasha always lost but couldn't stop laughing. One evening, as they watched the sunset from Marcus's balcony, he turned to her with serious eyes. You know, when we first met, I never thought you'd give me a chance. Most women see the wheelchair and walk away. Tasha squeezed his hand. Well, I'm not most women, and you're not most men. Maybe that's why we work so well together. That night, as Tasha drove home, she realized that love doesn't care about physical limitations or family opinions. Sometimes, the biggest barriers aren't physical at all. They're the ones people build in their minds. And day by day, she and Marcus were breaking those barriers down, one loving moment at a time. After dating for a year, Marcus had been secretly planning the perfect proposal for weeks. He chose Tasha's family's annual summer barbecue as the setting, hoping to show everyone that their love was worth celebrating. The day arrived with perfect weather, bright sunshine, and a gentle breeze. Marcus arrived early at the Williams family home, his heart pounding as he patted the ring box hidden in his jacket pocket. He had asked Keisha, Tasha's sister, to help him set everything up. The backyard was decorated with twinkling lights and purple flowers, Tasha's favorite. Are you nervous? Keisha asked as she helped position Marcus's wheelchair in the perfect spot under the oak tree. Terrified, Marcus admitted with a shaky laugh, but I've never been more sure about anything in my life. As family members started arriving, Marcus could feel Gloria, Tasha's mother, watching him. Over the past year, she had slowly started warming up to him, especially after seeing how he supported Tasha through a difficult time when she lost a patient at work. Still, her acceptance wasn't complete. Tasha arrived wearing a yellow sundress, her curly hair flowing freely in the breeze. She immediately came to Marcus, giving him a kiss that made some of her younger cousins giggle. "You're here early," she said, surprised. "I wanted to help set up," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The afternoon progressed with food, music, and laughter. Marcus watched as Tasha moved around the gathering, helping her aunts with the food, dancing with her little cousins, and laughing at her uncle's bad jokes. Every time she looked his way, her whole face lit up with love. Finally, as the sun began to set, Marcus nodded to Keisha. She quickly got everyone's attention by tapping her glass. "Everyone, Marcus has something he'd like to say." Tasha turned, confused, as Marcus rolled his wheelchair to the center of the gathering. The whole family formed a circle around them, and even Gloria stepped closer, her expression curious. "Tasha Williams," Marcus began, his voice strong despite his nervousness. "A year ago, you literally bumped into my life at a coffee shop. Since then, you've shown me what true love really means." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the ring box. Gasps echoed through the crowd as Tasha's hands flew to her mouth. "You've never seen my wheelchair as a barrier. You've supported my dreams, shared my struggles, and brought more joy to my life than I ever thought possible. You taught me that love doesn't see limitations, it sees possibilities." Marcus opened the ring box, revealing a beautiful diamond ring that sparkled in the setting sun. "I may not be able to get down on one knee, but I can promise you my whole heart. Tasha Williams, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Tasha's face as she nodded vigorously. "Yes, yes, of course, yes," she exclaimed, rushing forward to kiss him as the family erupted in cheers and applause. To everyone's surprise, Gloria was the first to step forward. Her eyes were wet with tears as she looked at Marcus. "I was wrong about you," she said softly. "I see now what my daughter saw from the beginning. Welcome to the family, son." Marcus carefully slipped the ring onto Tasha's finger as more family members came forward to congratulate them. Tasha's little cousins wanted to see the ring, her aunts were already discussing wedding plans, and her uncles were patting Marcus on the back. Later that evening, as the celebration continued around them, Tasha sat in Marcus's lap under the oak tree where he had proposed. "Did you really think I might say no?" she asked, admiring how her ring caught the light from the decorations. Marcus smiled. "Honestly, I was more worried about your mom's reaction than yours. But I knew that even if the whole world was against us, you'd still be by my side." "Always," Tasha promised, leaning her head against his shoulder. "You know what this means though, right? Now you're stuck with my crazy family forever." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Marcus laughed, pulling her closer. As they sat there, surrounded by the love and acceptance of family, both Tasha and Marcus knew that this was just the beginning of their journey together. They had proved to everyone, and sometimes even to themselves, that true love knows no boundaries. Their story wasn't about overcoming disabilities. It was about two people who found each other and refused to let anything stand in the way of their happiness. The evening ended with promises of wedding planning, family dinners, and a future filled with love, proving that sometimes the most beautiful love stories come in unexpected packages. The wedding planning started on a sunny Saturday morning at Marcus and Tasha's favorite coffee shop, where their love story began. They sat at their usual table, surrounded by wedding magazines, with their wedding planner, Sarah, who was carefully taking notes on her tablet. "So, what kind of wedding are you both dreaming of?" Sarah asked, looking between them. Tasha glanced at Marcus with a loving smile. "We want something elegant but accessible. Every guest should feel comfortable, especially Marcus." Marcus squeezed her hand. "And I want to be involved in everything, not just sitting on the sidelines. This is our day together." Their first challenge came when visiting wedding venues. The first 3 places they visited were beautiful but had stairs everywhere. The fourth venue, an elegant garden with wide, paved paths and a modern reception hall, caught their attention. "This could work," Marcus said, easily rolling his wheelchair around the space. "Look at these smooth paths, I can move around freely during the ceremony." The venue manager, Mrs. Thompson, showed them the special ramp they could install for the small stage where they would say their vows. "We want every couple to have their perfect day," she said warmly. Back at home, Tasha spread out their planning calendar on the kitchen table. "Okay, we got the venue. Now we need to think about the wedding party." Marcus looked nervous. "About that? I want my brother James to be my best man, but he's stationed overseas with the military. He's trying to get leave for the wedding. Tasha touched his shoulder gently. Then we'll plan the date around when he can come. Family is important. They decided on 6 months for their engagement, giving them enough time to plan everything perfectly. Tasha chose her sister Keisha as her maid of honor, and they selected their wedding colors, royal purple and silver. One afternoon, while looking at wedding suits, Marcus faced another challenge. The tailor at the fancy boutique seemed uncomfortable measuring him in his wheelchair. Perhaps Sir would prefer something simpler, the tailor suggested awkwardly. Marcus sat straighter in his wheelchair. No, I want a proper tailored suit. It's my wedding day, and I plan to look my best. Tasha, who was watching, stepped forward. Either you help us find the perfect suit, or we'll take our business somewhere else. They found another tailor who was much more helpful, suggesting a suit design that would look elegant whether Marcus was sitting or moving around. The tailor even added special features to make the suit more comfortable in his wheelchair. The guest list brought its own challenges. My college friends want to throw a bachelor party, Marcus mentioned one evening, but they're worried about finding an accessible place. Tasha grinned. Leave that to me. I've already talked to David about it. They're planning something amazing that you'll love. As weeks passed, their plans came together beautifully. They found a cake baker who created a beautiful design that could be displayed at wheelchair height so Marcus could help with the cake cutting. The DJ promised to play songs they could enjoy together, with Marcus spinning Tasha in dance moves they had practiced. One day, while reviewing their plans, Gloria stopped by with a surprise. She handed Marcus a small box. "These were your father's cufflinks," she said to Tasha. "I want you to wear them, Marcus. You're part of our family now." Marcus opened the box, revealing beautiful silver cufflinks with tiny purple stones. His eyes filled with tears as he looked at his future mother-in-law. "Thank you," he whispered. "This means everything." That evening, as they sat on their balcony watching the sunset, Tasha noticed Marcus looking thoughtful. "What's on your mind?" she asked. "Just thinking about how everyone's coming together to make our day special," he replied. "A year ago, I worried your family would never accept me. Now your mom's giving me family heirlooms." Tasha leaned down to kiss him. "That's because you didn't just win my heart. You won all of theirs too." Little did Tasha know, while she was busy planning their perfect wedding day, Marcus had an even bigger surprise in store. Every time she mentioned their first dance, he smiled mysteriously, keeping his secret plan close to his heart. As they finished their evening reviewing wedding details, both felt grateful for how far they'd come. Their wedding wasn't just about two people getting married. It was about showing the world that love truly has no boundaries. While Tasha was busy at work one Tuesday morning, Marcus wheeled himself into Dr. Parker's physical therapy clinic for his secret session. For the past 3 months, he had been coming here without telling anyone, determined to surprise Tasha on their wedding day. "Ready for another session?" Dr. Parker asked, helping Marcus onto the therapy table. "You've made incredible progress." Marcus nodded, determination clear in his eyes. "I have to be ready. There's only 2 months left until the wedding." The accident that put Marcus in a wheelchair had left him with partial paralysis. Doctors had always said there was a small chance he might stand again with extensive therapy, but Marcus had never been motivated enough to try, until now. "Let's start with the leg exercises," Dr. Parker instructed. Marcus gritted his teeth as they began the painful process of working his muscles. Sweat dripped down his face as he focused on moving his legs, even slightly. During these sessions, Marcus would think about Tasha to keep going when the pain became intense. He imagined her face when she would see him stand at their cake tasting, and later, during their first dance. These thoughts pushed him through the hardest moments. To keep his secret, Marcus had created a careful schedule. He told Tasha he had early morning client meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when he was actually at physical therapy. His best friend David was the only person who knew, helping cover for him when needed. "You're getting stronger," Dr. Parker observed, watching Marcus grip the parallel bars. "Today, let's try standing for 2 minutes." Marcus pulled himself up, his arms shaking with effort. His legs trembled, but he remained standing. 1 minute passed, then 2. When he finally sat back in his wheelchair, his face was beaming with pride. "That's a new record," Dr. Parker said, making notes in his chart. "Remember, managing expectations is important. We can't guarantee you'll walk, but standing for short periods is looking very possible. After his session, Marcus rolled into his office, changing his shirt before his video conference meetings began. His assistant, Jenny, brought him coffee, noticing his tired expression. "Rough morning?" she asked kindly. "Just some important preparations," Marcus replied with a mysterious smile. That evening, when Tasha called to discuss wedding details, Marcus had to work hard to contain his excitement. "How about we schedule the cake tasting for next month?" he suggested casually. "Perfect. I can't wait to try all the flavors with you," Tasha replied, unaware of what Marcus was planning. Later that night, David came over to help Marcus practice standing at home. They had installed discreet support bars in Marcus's apartment, hidden behind curtains. "Man, you're really doing this," David said, spotting his friend as he practiced standing. "I still can't believe it." Marcus lowered himself back into his chair, exhausted but satisfied. "I have to. You should see how Tasha looks at wedding couples' first dance videos. She tries to hide it, but I know she wishes we could do that." "Just don't push yourself too hard," David warned. "Tasha loves you exactly as you are." "I know," Marcus smiled. "That's exactly why I want to do this for her. She's never asked me to change, never treated me differently. This isn't about changing who I am, it's about showing her that her love has given me the strength to try things I never thought possible." As weeks passed, Marcus continued his secret therapy sessions. There were days when the pain was almost unbearable, days when he wanted to give up. But then he would get a text from Tasha about wedding plans, or she would send him a photo of her trying on bridesmaid dresses with her sister, and his determination would return stronger than ever. The day before their scheduled cake tasting, Marcus had his final practice session with Dr. Parker. "Remember," Dr. Parker advised, "take it slow, don't overdo it. You've worked too hard to risk injury now." Marcus nodded, his heart full of anticipation. Tomorrow would change everything. As he left the clinic, he sent a quick text to the bakery, confirming all the special arrangements for their surprise. That night, as he lay in bed, Marcus could hardly sleep. Tomorrow, he would give Tasha a surprise that would show her just how much their love had transformed his life. He just hoped everything would go according to plan. The morning of the cake tasting arrived bright and clear. Tasha woke up excited, thinking this would be just another fun wedding planning day. She put on her favorite blue dress, the one Marcus said brought out her smile, and headed to Sweet Dreams Bakery. Marcus arrived early, his heart racing as he coordinated with Sarah, the bakery owner, who was in on his surprise. David was already there, hidden in the back room with a camera to capture the moment. The private tasting room was set up perfectly, with support bars disguised as decorative rails along the walls. "Everything's ready," Sarah whispered to Marcus. "The special chair is behind the curtain, and we've cleared enough space for you to move around safely." When Tasha walked in, her face lit up at the sight of Marcus waiting for her. The table was beautifully set with different cake samples, each one decorated with tiny purple flowers matching their wedding colors. "This looks amazing," Tasha exclaimed, kissing Marcus before sitting down beside him. "I don't know how we're going to choose just one flavor." Sarah brought out the first few samples, explaining each flavor combination. They tried vanilla cake with lavender buttercream, chocolate with raspberry filling, and a lemon cake that made them both smile with delight. "Now," Sarah said, following the planned script, "I have a special tasting experience prepared. Tasha, would you mind putting on this blindfold? It's part of our unique tasting experience." Tasha laughed but agreed, letting Sarah tie the silk blindfold around her eyes. "This feels silly," she giggled. "Trust me," Marcus said, his voice slightly shaky with anticipation. "Some things taste better when you can't see them coming." While Tasha was blindfolded, Marcus quietly moved his wheelchair closer to the hidden support bars. Sarah and her assistant stood nearby, ready to help if needed. David peeked out from his hiding spot, camera ready. "Okay," Marcus said, taking a deep breath. "Before we try the next cake, I have something to show you. Keep the blindfold on for just a moment more." Using all the strength he had built up over months of secret therapy, Marcus carefully pushed himself up from his wheelchair. His legs trembled slightly, but he held firm, gripping the support bar with one hand while holding a small plate of cake in the other. "All right, my love," he said, his voice full of emotion. "You can take off the blindfold now." Tasha reached up and removed the blindfold, blinking as her eyes adjusted to the light. For a moment, she stared in confusion at the empty wheelchair. Then her eyes moved up, and she saw Marcus standing there, holding a plate of cake and smiling nervously. "Oh my God," she whispered, her hands flying to her mouth. "Marcus, you're standing. How? What? When did you?" Tears started flowing down her cheeks as she stood up, her legs shaking almost as much as his. Behind them, David captured every moment on camera while Sarah and her staff wiped away their own tears. "I've been taking physical therapy for months," Marcus explained, his voice thick with emotion. "I wanted to surprise you. I wanted to show you that your love has given me the strength to do things I never thought possible." Tasha stepped closer, afraid to touch him in case he lost his balance. "But how?" The doctors said. "They said there was a small chance with intense therapy. I never had a reason to try before. But you gave me a reason. You gave me hope." Tasha carefully wrapped her arms around him, both of them crying now. Marcus managed to set down the cake plate and hold her properly, standing there in an embrace that neither of them had thought possible. "I can't believe you did this," Tasha whispered against his chest. "All those early morning meetings were actually therapy sessions," Marcus finished. "I wanted this to be perfect. I wanted to show you that on our wedding day, we can have our first dance with both of us standing, even if just for a minute." Sarah quietly led her staff out of the room, leaving the couple to their emotional moment. David continued filming from his hiding spot, capturing this precious memory for them to keep forever. As they stood there together, holding each other up in more ways than one, both Tasha and Marcus knew that this moment was sweeter than any cake they could possibly taste. It was a moment of pure magic, born from love, determination, and the power of keeping faith in impossible dreams. The video of Marcus's surprise at the cake tasting went viral overnight. David had edited it perfectly, capturing Tasha's shocked expression and the beautiful moment they shared. Within days, their story was featured on local news, then national networks started calling. "I can't believe this is happening," Tasha said one evening, scrolling through thousands of supportive comments on their video. "People from all over the world are sharing our story." Marcus smiled from his wheelchair. He still needed it most of the time, saving his strength for important moments. "Maybe our story gives people hope. It shows them that love can make impossible things possible." Their wedding day arrived on a perfect spring morning. The garden venue looked magical, with purple and silver decorations catching the early sunlight. Marcus was in his private room, doing his final physical therapy exercises with Dr. Parker before the ceremony. "Remember?" Dr. Parker reminded him. "We've practiced this. Take it slowly, and if you feel tired, there's no shame in sitting down." In her bridal suite, Tasha was getting ready with her sister Keisha and her mother. Gloria couldn't stop crying as she helped her daughter with her veil. "I was so wrong about Marcus," Gloria admitted, fixing Tasha's hair. "That man moved mountains for you, baby girl." The ceremony was set to begin at noon. Guests filled the garden, many of them holding tissues, knowing what was coming. The specially designed ramp leading to the altar was decorated with flowers, making it look like a natural part of the beautiful setting. Marcus rolled down the aisle first, looking handsome in his tailored suit with Gloria's gifted cufflinks sparkling at his wrists. He positioned himself at the altar, exchanging a knowing look with David, who stood beside him as best man. When the wedding march began, everyone stood. Tasha appeared at the garden entrance, a vision in white, her father proud beside her. Her dress was stunning, a flowing design that would look perfect whether she was standing or sitting with Marcus in his chair. As she walked down the aisle, Tasha's eyes never left Marcus. When she reached him, she handed her bouquet to Keisha and took both of Marcus's hands in hers. The officiant began the ceremony, speaking about love's power to overcome any obstacle. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for, their vows. Marcus gripped the hidden support bars that had been beautifully incorporated into the altar design. Slowly, steadily, he rose to his feet. A collective gasp went through the crowd, followed by sniffles and quiet sobs. "Tasha," he began, standing tall despite his trembling legs. "When we met, I thought my limitations would keep me from giving you the wedding of your dreams. But you taught me that love doesn't see limitations, it sees possibilities. You never asked me to change, never saw my wheelchair as a barrier. Your love gave me the strength to stand here today, not because you needed me to, but because you made me believe I could." Tears streamed down Tasha's face as she delivered her vows. "Marcus, you've shown me what true strength looks like. It's not about standing or sitting. It's about never giving up on love. You've moved mountains to create this moment, but you need to know that I would have been just as happy if you had stayed in your chair. Because I fell in love with your heart, your smile, your soul. Standing or sitting, you're the man of my dreams." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus was still standing. Their first kiss as a married couple was at eye level, something neither of them had experienced before. The garden erupted in applause and cheers. During the recessional, Marcus sat back in his wheelchair, saving his strength for the first dance later. Tasha sat in his lap, something they had done countless times before, and he rolled them back down the aisle while guests threw rose petals. As they reached the end of the aisle, Tasha whispered in his ear, "That was the most beautiful moment of my life." Marcus squeezed her hand. "Just wait until our first dance. This day is full of miracles, my love." Their wedding photos captured both moments. Marcus standing for their vows and sitting proudly with his bride in his lap. Each picture showed the same thing: two people whose love had proved that anything is possible when you believe in each other. The reception was in full swing at the garden venue when the DJ announced it was time for the couple's first dance. The guests gathered around the dance floor, phones ready to capture what everyone knew would be an unforgettable moment. Marcus wheeled to the center of the dance floor with Tasha by his side, looking radiant in her reception dress. A simpler version of her wedding gown that allowed for easier movement. The soft purple lighting created the perfect atmosphere as Ed Sheeran's Perfect began to play. "Ready?" Marcus whispered to his new wife. Tasha nodded, her eyes already filling with tears. Using the techniques he practiced for months, Marcus slowly stood from his wheelchair. David quickly moved it aside while Tasha's brother James stood nearby, ready to help if needed. Marcus had been saving his strength all day for this moment. As Marcus stood, Tasha stepped into his arms. They had practiced this dance during his therapy sessions, a slow, gentle sway that wouldn't strain his legs too much. The couple moved together in perfect harmony, Marcus's legs steady enough to support them both. "I can't believe we're actually dancing," Tasha whispered against his chest. "Believe it," Marcus replied softly. "This is real, and so is every moment we'll share from here on out." Guests wiped away tears as they watched the newlyweds dance. Gloria, who had once doubted their relationship, was sobbing openly into her husband's shoulder. Even Dr. Parker, who had been invited as a special guest, looked emotional seeing his patient's hard work pay off. When the song ended, Marcus sat back in his wheelchair to thunderous applause. Tasha immediately sat in his lap, their signature position, and he spun them around the dance floor as the next song started, showing that their love could be celebrated in any way they chose. Later that evening, during the reception dinner, David stood for his best man speech. "I've known Marcus for years," he began, "and I've never seen him work harder for anything than he did to create today's magical moments. But here's the thing, Tasha never asked for any of it. She loved him exactly as he was, and that's what made Marcus want to show her that miracles are possible when you have the right person believing in you." The celebration continued late into the night. Marcus and Tasha alternated between him in his wheelchair and brief moments of standing together, showing everyone that their love wasn't about ability or disability. It was about two people who saw past physical limitations to find their perfect match. As the evening drew to a close, the couple prepared to leave for their honeymoon, a specially arranged trip to an accessible resort in Hawaii. Before they left, Gloria pulled them both into a tight hug. "You taught me so much about what love really means," she told them, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud to have you both as my children." Marcus and Tasha's story continued to inspire people long after their wedding day. Their video went viral again, this time showing their first dance, and they received thousands of messages from people around the world who found hope in their love story. 1 year later, they sat together on their apartment balcony, celebrating their first anniversary. Marcus was still primarily using his wheelchair, but he could now stand and take a few steps when he wanted to, though he never felt pressured to do so. "Do you ever regret marrying someone with a disability?" Marcus asked, still sometimes wondering about it even after all they'd been through. Tasha looked at him with the same loving smile she'd had since the first coffee shop meeting. "I didn't marry someone with a disability," she said firmly. I married you, the funny, brilliant, determined man who makes my life better every single day. The wheelchair is just part of how you move through the world, like my car is part of how I move through it. Marcus pulled her closer, grateful for this woman who had changed his life in so many ways. Together, they had shown the world that true love doesn't see barriers, it sees possibilities. Their story wasn't about overcoming disability. It was about two people who found each other and proved that when love is real, anything is possible. As they watched the sunset together, both knew that this was just the beginning of their adventure. Their love story would continue to inspire others, reminding everyone that sometimes the most beautiful love stories come in unexpected packages, and that true love can make miracles happen.